Hey guys, it's Elizabeth from Elizabeth Books, and I'm here today to do my mid-March wrap-up. So I read 17 books so far this March. I went crazy. I did a readathon and I did some of my reading challenges, so let's just jump right into what I read. So first I read Nil by Lynn Matson. Just to let you know, this cover is the worst cover I've ever felt in my life. It feels like sandpaper and it is awful and I hate it. So this book, I really wanted to like it. The synopsis is like, these kids are stuck in this island, you have a year or you'll die. So you know that. Like, that's what this is about, but literally, it took half the book for one of the characters to like figure out what she was doing on Nil and like what was going on when the synopsis told you that's what the book was about. So I just didn't like that. I wish like at the beginning they knew and the whole book was them like struggling to escape. It really wasn't. It was just the main character Charlie met with this boy, the boy Thad, and they just like fell in love really fast. There wasn't really danger on the island. They played like volleyball and just like sat around and like ate fish and then complained that their lives were like horrible. Which, I mean, yeah, they were stuck on this island, so that sucks. But really, nothing was like after them except like wild pigs once in a while and stuff. So like, it had such good potential to be really good, but it just bothered me. And she talked about his eyes too much. And her last name was spelled like Charlie with an L-Y or an L-E-Y, and he was like, oh, I knew it couldn't have been spelled with an L-I-E because like, you're too beautiful to be a lie. And I was just like, oh my god, you're so dumb. And then the whole rest of the book, like, he would be like, Charlie with an L-Y, like, as her nickname, and I'm like, why do people have to repeat things in books that just are unnecessary? So, like, I mean, I enjoyed this. I gave it a 3 out of 5, but I would never reread it, and I don't think I'd continue with the series because they're not, okay, I'm going to spoil it because I don't even care, but they're not even on the island anymore, so what's the point of the rest of the series? Like, oh, they're going to figure out what the island's for? I don't care. It's probably the government testing children like the Maze Runner. I read Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. This is the second book in the Grisham trilogy, and I loved this. This is so good. It just kind of continues on with the first book, and it's beautiful, and I loved it. It wasn't as good as the first book, but if you liked the first book, I would continue on with the series and keep reading because this one was super good too. I read Don't Look Back by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and this was like an awesome thrillery book. It's about this girl Samantha, and she wakes up and she doesn't know her name. She doesn't know like where she is. I kind of like those books, like amnesia books. Is that bad? I don't know. I think they're super entertaining. But so she doesn't know her life, and her parents come to the hospital and they're like, hello, we are your parents. And she's like, okay, sure. Like, I don't know anything. She finds out that her friend Cassie and her were both missing, and Cassie is still missing. So it's about her trying to figure out what could have happened to Cassie, like who could have done this to them. And pretty early on in the book, I guessed who was like the murderer, but it was still really good. I still gave it a like 5 stars. I said like 4.75 just for like, and the ending was just a little like weird for me, but overall the book was super good and I read it in a sitting and I super loved it. Next I read A Wrinkle in Time, the graphic novel, adapted and illustrated by Hope Larson, and it's by Madeline Langels. Yes. And I haven't read Wrinkle in Time or watched any of it since like 7th grade, so it's been like 10 years. And I saw this on the book outlet and I was like, oh man, I want to pick this up. And it's actually super good. It's just, everything's illustrated. It's only like black, white, and blue. So there's a section in the bad guy is supposed to have like red eyes, and they didn't even give him red eyes, but the chapter's called like The Man with the Red Eyes. So I'm like, what was the point? Like, you didn't even make his eyes red. Everything in this book is black, white, and blue. So just that like kind of bothered me. But overall, like, this is a book about a kid whose father's missing, and her brother is kind of like super smart, and people in the town kind of make fun of him. And it's about her brother, and her friend from school. He wasn't even really her friend. He was just this boy. He was just this boy she knew from school, but they all go on this venture through the wrinkles of time with these witches and stuff to help save her father. And It's actually really good. This is probably the best version I've read of it. Then I read Amelia Lends a Hand by Marissa Marr, and I just collect all these Amelia's notebooks. This one wasn't that good to me, but it was just too short. It was about Amelia's friend who was deaf, so she kind of learns sign language and makes like little flashcards. She didn't know sign language at first, and so it was just really cute, and I'm glad I picked this up and continued with my collection. Then I read Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, and this was like my most anticipated read so far of the year, and it pretty much let me down. Like, I mean, I know everybody's talked about this book, but everybody seems to love it. It just like had this weird mix of technology with like being a fantasy novel, and I just didn't like that part. I didn't really like, there's like a love triangle kinda, I didn't really like that. The training parts weren't really long enough. The girl that gave her a nickname, like Little Lightning Girl, and she said it too much. I really liked the beginning, I was really sucked in, and then I just like stopped caring. But I mean, it's a series, and I think I'll continue it. I don't know if I'd buy it though. Like, this makes me really mad I bought this when, I mean, I didn't hate it, but I don't know. I think it was just way too overhyped, but it wasn't bad. It just wasn't great, and I'm sad. Next I read Hashtag Scandal by Sarah Ackler, which I pretty much didn't like, but I just like need to stop reading like kind of high schooly dramas, because this was just about a girl who loved her best friend's boyfriend, and she kisses him at a party, and someone takes a picture and posts it on Facebook in this like series of pictures that are like, oh, scandal pictures of prom, and so everybody hates her because it got posted to like her Facebook, her phone got stolen, and so everybody like hates her, and the boyfriend like doesn't even pay attention to her then, and so then it's just the whole story of her like working with like the AV team or whatever in her school, figure out who did it and why, and so much cell phone drama. I just read This Girl, which is the Slam series book 3 by Colleen Hoover. I did not like this book either. It's a future from Slammed with Will and Lakin, and it's kind of Will telling Lakin how Slammed went in his point of view, because Slammed is in Lakin's point of view. So it's just him like flashbacking to tell her how he felt during Slammed, which we like already knew. But apparently it was necessary, so, you know, we got this book. I'm going to keep Slammed and read it as, like, its own book, but I'm going to forget there was a series because it just wasn't a good series. Next I read Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetzi. This was so sad. It's about, it's kind of like a World War II novel, but it's not, like, Nazi Germany. It's like the Soviets and Lithuania come. They get taken to Siberia, and they go to, like, different kind of concentration camps where they have to do different jobs and work, and it was just so good. It was so sad, and like the last chapter in it made me cry a lot, and the mom in this book was just such a positive mother and like just loved her children so much, and I'm gonna like cry talking about it. It's just so good, and I really, really recommend it if you like World War II type novels. I read Fixing Delilah by Sarah Ackler. This book was boring to me too. It really had no point to me. It's just about this girl who, her grandmother dies, and so they go to her grandmother's house for the summer to like clean it out, and her grandmother wants to be cremated, but she can't, and like poured into a lake, but she can't until like the summer season's over because it's like illegal, so they have to wait all summer to do it, and it's just about her like reconnecting with this boy she knew when she was younger and trying to fix problems with her parents that, I don't know, it just, nothing mattered to me. I just didn't care. I read Bristol Bay Summer by Annie Buchever. I grew up in Bristol Bay, Alaska, so this was very accurate for me. A lot of the things were very accurate. It talked about my hometown, it talked about other places. It was, the person actually must have went here to research because everything was like correct that they were talking about. It was really good. There was a part in the end with like a plane crash that I was just crying when I was reading it. The only downfall for me was the girl is supposed to be a 12-year-old. I read her more as like 16. And I forgot to mention I participated in the Vetorama Readathon. So it was to read, there was like 7 different challenges, and it started from the 8th of March to the 14th of March. So my first one was read a book with green on the cover, so that was Fixing Delilah. And then my next one was read a book with that you can spell Rama, so that's why I read Bristol Bay Summer. And there's R-A-M-A, so that's spelled Rama. So yeah, but overall, yes, this book was super good. Next I read Rune and Rising by Leigh Bardugo, which is the 3rd book in the Grisha trilogy, and I was like, oh, in my TBR I was like, oh, I probably won't even get to this month. Kat's reading challenge that I'm participating in, I picked read a book someone else picks for you, and he picked for me to read this. And I also read it for the Vetorama Readathon, which was finish a book in a series. So I picked this one for both those challenges. And I super loved this. It was super good. This is a really good series for me. I feel like all 3 books were amazing. In a lot of series, like trilogies, I feel like the 2nd book sucks, and then the 3rd book is either like kind of good or kind of bad. But all 3 of these books were really solid for me. The 1st book was the best for me, but the 2nd and 3rd one were still super good, and I really enjoyed the series. Next, for the Vetorama Readathon, I read All the Bright Places by Jennifer Nevin, and it was read a book with a flower on the cover, and there's a flower right there. This was a book about a girl named Violet and a boy named Finch, and they kind of have a love story. They're both very depressed people, and so they kind of like look for each other for love, and it's just them building a relationship and kind of what comes with being depressed and all that. And I liked it overall. I thought it was a pretty good story, but a lot of things were unrealistic, and I felt like the author didn't really take suicide and depression seriously. Like, she just did it to write a book, but she didn't really look at it as like if people actually had these symptoms and what would actually happen in life. So that kind of like was a downfall for me, but overall I really did like it, and I would reread it. I just really think she should have like researched things better and like portrayed things better, but that's just me. I read City of Glass, The Mortal Instruments #3 by Cassandra Clare. My friend Ashley from Tea Leaves and Bookbindings let me borrow it, and she's the one who told me to read it for Kat's challenge to read a book someone else recommended. So I read that one, and I read it for the Vetorama Readathon because one of the challenges was read a book someone else picks for you. So look, that just worked all of that. And this is the 3rd book in the series. It was super good. I really liked it. I think I liked it the most of the series so far. And I really want to continue with the series. It made me really want to read more. And I read Prep by Curtis Sinfield. And I've read this a few times growing up, like 3 or 4 times. So this is probably my 4th or 5th time rereading it. And I really liked it. I just love this contemporary. I feel like it is a like high school, boarding school book. Oh, and I read it for the Vetorama Readathon, which is Read a Contemporary, so I picked this one. And I really liked it, and I feel like I see why people don't really like it. Like, I looked it up on Goodreads, and it really doesn't have that good of ratings. But I think maybe just because I've read it since I was younger, it just like has stuck to me as a good book. And I can see why I shouldn't like it, but I've read it so much that I'm just like, oh, and I can overlook it. And I don't know. I just love everything about it. And it's just her from freshman year to senior year, growing up in a boarding school, and the friends she makes and the situations that happen. And I think it's a really good boarding school book, but that's just, I guess that's just me. Finally, for the Vetorama Readathon, I read The Treatment by Suzanne Young, and it was like read a diverse book, a unique book, something like that. And I picked this one because it's about like suicide as an epidemic, and I just thought that was like kind of a cool concept to be kind of different. I'm not sure if this really counted, but it counted for me. But this was about, it's the sequel to The Program, and it's just about them kind of getting out of the program and trying not to get back in and running away. And I mean, they're kind of silly books. It is really silly if I think about it, but it was just like a really entertaining read, and I really did enjoy it. So if there's more in the series, I would read it. Finally, I just read I Was Here by Gail Foreman. I borrowed that from my friend Ashley at Tea Leaves and Bookbindings, and I just read that for fun. It wasn't for, I completed all of that Readorama challenge, so this one was just to read a book. And it's about this girl, Cody, and her friend Meg commit suicide, and she doesn't really know why. Meg always seemed like happy to her. And so she goes to pack up Meg's belongings, and she kind of just investigates on her own to why Meg would commit suicide. And it's just kind of like a mystery novel with a little like romance in there. And I mean, overall, I liked it. Like, it was good. It was just like, again, a suicide novel that like the author really didn't think it through very well. I don't know. She just, things that happen in there, characters should have done better things and like communicated better with each other, and I don't know. Overall, I thought it was pretty good. I know people were kind of let down on it and didn't like it that much, but I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm giving them the same rating, like a 3-ish, 4-ish. It wasn't a 5-star at all. Yeah, guys, that was my mid-March wrap-up. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye, guys.